At least 7 people have been killed and over 700 others have been injured after a powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake jolted Taiwan's capital of Tapei. The quake earlier prompted tsunami warnings in the self-ruled island, parts of southern Japan and the Philippines. However, these warnings have been lifted in Japan and the Philippines. The epicenter of the quake is recorded in the waters of the eastern coastline of Taiwan. As per Taiwan's weather administration, at least 25 aftershocks have been recorded. The tremors have triggered landslides in some Taiwanese regions. Building collapses have also been recorded in the Hualien city of the island. The jolt was also felt in various Chinese provinces, including Shanghai and Fujian. The United States has opened a second channel enabling smaller vessels after the collapse of the Baltimore Bridge. However, most of the route remains blocked by the collapsed bridge and stranded container ship that brought the structure down. On Tuesday, US Coast Guard dropped markers in the Patapsco River for the alternate challenge. The main channel has been blocked since the container ship Dali lost power ramming into a support column of the Key Bridge. The incident killed 6 road workers. Officials have said that they need to clear bridge debris before opening the main channel, which is 15 meters deep. Former US President Donald Trump has promised the largest deportation of migrants on Tuesday. This comes as part of his presidential campaign in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Trump vowed, and I'm quoting here, to stop the invasion of prisoners, murders, drug dealers, mental patients and terrorists in the US. He added that if the migrants are not stopped, it would bring the worst people of all countries to the United States. Earlier in the day, during his speech in Michigan, the Republican frontrunner also called the migrants, and I'm quoting here again, animals and not humans. It is important to note that the degrading rhetoric is in stark contrast with data. US authorities suggest that crimes committed by migrants are much lower than those committed by native-born American citizens. Another story from the United States. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with French Defense Minister to discuss aid for Ukraine. The two leaders met in Paris on Tuesday and spoke about Europe's support for Kyiv amid mounting Russian aggression. The French minister also showed Blinken the military equipment and ammunition that Paris has been sending to Ukraine. The US Secretary of State also pressed for the US Congress to release the funds slated for Ukraine, calling the war's current timeline a quote-unquote crucial moment. Separately, Blinken is expected to head to Brussels later today for a NATO ministerial meeting. Over in the UK, British Foreign Minister David Cameron has called for NATO to bolster Ukraine aid amid growing Russian aggression. Cameron is slated to press for the cause at the NATO's 75th year of the alliance since its inception on the 4th of April of the year 1949. He added that with the increasing closeness of Kyiv with the alliance, it is NATO's responsibility to make sure Kyiv wins the war. Separately, in February this year, UK announced a new package of sanctions against Russia. Britain said it was seeking to diminish Russian President Putin's weapons arsenal and the war chest. Meanwhile, the Russian military thwarted multiple Ukrainian strikes aimed at Moscow's military targets on Tuesday. As per the Russian Defense Ministry issued a report stating the Ukrainian forces targeted installments in Kupiansk, Donetsk and Avdiivka. The ministry added that the Russian Air Force defended against multiple aerial attacks launched by Kyiv. The Ukrainian side released a report over attacks on the same day, claiming responsibility of the said attacks. Kyiv hit multiple Russian anti-aircraft missile systems, anti-tank weapons and rocket launchers. On the other hand, Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to appoint Admiral Alexander Moiseev as the new Navy chief. Now, this comes after the previous naval chief, Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov, was fired. His removal comes over the loss of several Russian warships. Now, in a series of Ukrainian attacks in the Black Sea, that is. Putin also named Vice Admiral Sergei Pinchuk as the new commander of the Navy's Black Sea Fleet. The Israeli Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, has apologized over the killing of 8 workers in Gaza. This comes after an Israeli forces struck a convoy of the world's central kitchen, killing at least 7 workers. In the convoy of the 2 vehicles, one was marked with the logo of the aid agency. The military chief called the killing, and I'm quoting here, unintentional. The chief added that the strikes resulted from the misidentification of the target at night hours. He also said that it happened amid the complexities of the ongoing war, adding that an independent investigation will be carried over the incident. Halevi said that the killings shouldn't have happened. The Israeli forces have said that the findings of the investigation will be made available to the world's central kitchen and other relevant international agencies. And down under, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has expressed outrage over the killing of a national in the Gaza Strip. Xiaomi Frankham was killed after the Israeli forces struck an aid convoy of the world's central kitchen. The strike left at least 7 workers dead, like we told you in the previous report. Prime Minister Albanese has called the killings, quote-unquote, completely unacceptable. Albanese added that he has spoken to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to convey the Australian outrage and anger over this incident. Separately, the strike killed nationals of Britain, Poland, a dual citizen of the US and Canada, and also Palestinians. Till now, at least 196 aid workers have been killed amongst the already skeleton crew in the strip. A satellite imagery shows a view of Damascus after a suspected Israeli strike on the Iranian Embassy on Monday. The strike marked one of the most significant attacks on Iranian missions in Syria. Amid the ongoing war in Gaza, Israel has stepped up a long-running military campaign against Iran in Syria. Until now, Iran has avoided directly entering the conflict, while supporting allies' attacks on Israel and the US targets. Israel has not claimed responsibility for the attack, which killed 7 members of Iran's Revolutionary Guards. Also, protests have erupted in Turkey after Turkish authorities prevented the newly elected mayor of a pro-Kurdish party taking up his post. Hundreds of protesters gathered on the streets of the Batman province to protest against the replacement of Abdullah Zeydan from the pro-Kurdish Dem party with the mayoral candidate from President Erdogan's AK party. Protesters fired firecrackers at the police, who sprayed them with water cannons, while scores of security personnel were stationed around Hakkari, where protests also took hold. Indonesia's President-elect Prabowo Subianto met with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Tokyo. Subianto told Japan's Prime Minister Kishida he wanted deeper security and economic cooperation. Prabowo's Tokyo trip is followed by his visit to Beijing to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday. The newly elected Senegals President Bassirou Diomaye Faye appointed politician and key backer Ousmane Sonko as Prime Minister in his first act as President. Sonko, an opponent of the former President Macky Sall, is popular among the West African nation's youth, but he was barred from the March 24th presidential elections due to a defamation conviction for which he denied any wrongdoing. Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov on Tuesday signed into law a bill tightening state control over foreign-funded non-governmental organizations. Human rights groups have criticized the law as restrictive. The law has similar provisions and language to that of the 2012 Russian law on foreign agents, which introduces additional reporting obligations on NGOs with foreign funding that are engaged in political activities. A ruling party mayoral candidate was shot dead on Monday in central Mexico during an event on the first day of her campaign, despite having requested security protection and receiving no response. On Monday evening, Gisela Gaitan had just presented her security strategy plan before a rally when gunmen opened fire, killing her instantly. Gaitan, a 38-year-old former litigator, was the only female candidate in Celaya, one of the deadliest cities in the world. The state authorities said that they are investigating the killing, and so far no arrests have been made. According to a new UN report, more than 53,000 people have fled Haiti's capital in less than 3 weeks. For the second day in a row, police had to fight off gangs attempting to get close to the National Palace, in an area where some displaced families have been camping since they were forced to flee their homes. The gunfire emptied the streets of downtown Port-au-Prince, where most shops and businesses have been closed for more than a month. A flash flood in the Ecuadorian capital has killed at least one person on Tuesday. This is according to the authorities that also reported that 16 children were evacuated from inside a garden located in the affected area, where rain continued unabated. City workers were tasked with cleaning the streets, while main avenues across Quito remained blocked for much of the day. The Indian government has taken a step to address concerns over information security. An internal advisory has been issued by officials on the threat of information leakage through CCTV cameras. Indian ministries and departments have been advised to steer clear of brands with a track record of security breaches. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology released an advisory in March, urging adherence to procurement guidelines to safeguard the overall security of CCTV cameras and other internet-connected devices. Now, this move comes after cybersecurity incidents were noticed by the Indian government that originated from security flaws in surveillance cameras. In its advisory, the government has emphasized the benefits of surveillance technology, but it has also highlighted the associated risks. The notification also lays down the essential requirements for ensuring the security of CCTV cameras. This includes tamper-resistant camera enclosures, encryption protocols, and proper maintenance of security networks. The US and the UK have signed an MOU, which will see the two nations work together to develop tests for the more advanced AI models. The MOU follows the commitments announced at an AI safety summit last year in November. The MOU was signed by US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo and UK Technology Secretary Michelle Donnellan. Under the formal partnership, Britain and the United States plan to perform at least one joint testing exercise on a publicly accessible model. They are also considering exploring personnel exchanges and are working to develop similar partnerships with other countries to promote AI safety. Stories now from the world of business. China's services activity growth accelerated in March as new business rose at the quickest pace in 3 months. A report showed that sentiment was staging a tentative recovery in the world's second largest economy. Together with other better-than-expected manufacturing surveys, the data add to the evidence that parts of China's economy are gaining momentum in the first quarter. However, better sales and business confidence failed to translate into higher recruitment. Employment levels shrank for a second successive month in March. Intel disclosed deepening operating losses for its foundry business, which is a blow to the chipmaker as it tries to regain a technology lead it lost in recent years to Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing. Intel said the manufacturing unit had $7 billion in operating losses for 2023, a steeper loss than the $5.2 billion loss in operating losses the year before. Intel shares were down 4.3% after the documents were filed with the US Securities and Exchange Commission. The company said 2024 would be the year of worst operating losses for the company's chip-making business and that it expects to break even on an operating basis by about 2027. Chinese smartphone maker Xiaomi said it has received more than 100,000 orders for its first car, a sporty electric vehicle called the SU7. The first deliveries come from a limited batch of 5,000 cars that Xiaomi had already produced. Following last week's launch of the SU7, short for Speed Ultra 7, Xiaomi advised buyers of its sedan that they could face wait times of 4 to 7 months now that a sign of robust demand is there.